Hello, my name is Alun, and today I'm facilitating the first of a series of 4 or 5 sessions. It depends quite how time runs. um, of my own PbtA game in development, Eotenweard. This is a game set in a low fantasy um, historical Britain, around 200 years after the Roman legions abandoned Britannia, and still about 200 years before the age of Vikings. So we're looking at about 550 of the Christian era, of the Common Era, and the second half of that century. In terms of look and feel, I guess the touchstones for that would be The Last Kingdom, or Prime's Vikings, both of which are set 200 years ahead of this time frame, but the look and feel is going to be very similar. Um, it is a world where the supernatural is just part of life. Everyone believes in something, and all of our player characters will have a connection to one of the supernatural patrons, let's call them that, of the time. Um, in this session, we've done some character creation. I'll ask the players to introduce themselves and their characters in a moment. And we've also done a little bit of broad session creation, which I'll just finish off now we're recording. Then we'll create the village where we're going to start play, and play to find out from there on. Um, this game, as all my online games, was arranged as part of the Open Hearth Gaming Community's monthly calendar. If you don't know about the Open Hearth community, then please type Open Hearth into Google and you will find us. Um, we play mostly in indie, but not entirely, role-playing games. And we would very much encourage more people to play online because you get to play with a whole world of characters, and world of players for that matter, when I think about it. Um, as part of the Open Hearth, we've got a very good, what I think is an excellent table culture founded on a code of conduct. So we're playing within the code of conduct, which I sometimes rather tongue-in-cheek describe as "don't be a dick." But we're also playing with some layered safety tools. So we're playing with lines and veils. Lines are things, and because I've not played with all of these players before, I'm just going to make sure that we've got a common understanding. Lines are those things that won't crop up in the fiction. If we sail close to them, then somebody stop me. Um, uh, Veils are things that may appear in the fiction, but we will discreetly fade to black. My standard example is that consensual sex, we fade to black because I'm old and British and we couldn't possibly have that on screen. Um, so we're playing with lines and veils. We're also playing with the X card. The X card is a way in which any one of us can just, pause the game. That's the best way to get my attention because I tend to look at faces, not the chat in Zoom. So, draw my attention with the X card. I'll stop. I won't ask why you've played it, apart from maybe to find out how far back you want me to go so I can play forward around whatever happened in that scene. And let me stress that the X card can be played for what can appear to be trivial reasons, right the way through to really, really triggering reasons. The example I always cite is that what someone once asked me, X-carded, and said, "You know the name of that NPC? Well, I thought it was okay that you gave them the same name as my brother-in-law, but now, given what they've been to do, I'm getting uncomfortable. So change the name. Easy." And the other thing I want to stress about the X card, if something comes up and you think, yeah, I'm all right with that, and then it comes up again, you think, yeah, maybe I'm not. Just because you didn't play the X card when it first came up does not mean you cannot play the X card when it comes up. The X card is there for whenever you feel uncomfortable about something. And sometimes that can be because you're worried that we're sailing a bit close to one of our lines, or because something that we haven't thought of as a line or a veil has come up. And I would just refer the players to the safety and links tab in the Character Keeper. I think I've put some starting lines and veils up there, which are the ones I usually pop up. Feel free to add anything. Interested in, fine and dandy. If you were to go with ask first, veil or line, they will override the previous ones. So if someone's not happy, for instance, with bugs, then if you ask first or veil or line, it will cancel the interested in bugs. Because if we're not all interested in bugs, there will be no bugs. Um, Finally, we're playing with an open door. It's always possible when you sign up for a game or you sit down to play a game, you think it's going to be a game like X. And then when you start playing, you think, actually, this is not really what I thought it was going to be. The open door is there to be used, folks. Okay, if any of us feels that this is not fun for whatever reason, that actually we'd rather be watching telly now, then the open door is there to use it, folks. No, it's fine. It's also there because sometimes the doorbell rings. So if you have to go away to deal with stuff in the real world, please do. We'll hope you come back, but if you don't worry about it. We'll play on and then reintegrate the character when you are able to come back if you're able to come back. And finally, I'll be using stars and wishes as an end of session debrief, just to get some idea of the stuff that people thought went well and the stuff that they thought would be better if. So what would you like to see more of next time? What would you like to see less of, etc., etc. But I'll brief you on that when we get there. So that's the pitch and the setup and the intro. Can I now then ask the players just to say hello? So let me start with you, Paul. Paul, say hello, tell us your pronouns, and briefly introduce us to Black Sal.
Hello, my name's Paul, pronouns he, him, and the character that I'm playing for this arc is the demon character by the name of Black Sal, who she probably portrays herself as Sister Sal. She's a Christian nun, or whatever the medieval equivalent of a female devotee to the Christian god is. And yes, she finds herself with two other players or characters, possibly a
Fine.
third next week.
Yes, we are expecting a fourth player for session two. Um, Brandon, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Arianwen.
Hello, my name is Brandon. I am playing Arianwen, she, who uses the Loon playbook. Um, Arianwen has no memory of her previous, well, she has a few scattered contradictory memories of her previous life, but mostly none because God said her previous life wasn't important. Arianwen believes herself to be a saint, or maybe at some point a saint. Hmm. Uh, it's all a little difficult to figure out.
But then God and sainthood is.
Yes, right. That's what God says.
Yeah,
That I
indeed, when
shouldn't
he
that
speaks to you regularly.
I shouldn't worry too much about that distinction because it's not important.
Love it, love it. And you have chosen as an indication of your gift from God, the sight. Your
Yes.
patron, God, sometimes show you things that cannot be seen and may be best left unseen. Right, okay. A tendency to speak in tongues, but rare moments of lucidity. Brilliant. Okay. And I should have checked in. Sister Sal is has taken as her gift from her demonic master or mistress. Um, Pain's balm. Your patron sometimes grants you the power to address another's pain. How very thoughtful of you. And then our final player tonight, Sinner, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and then briefly introduce us to Qellen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, I'm Senna. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm playing Qellen, the Celtic Mystic from the Northern Marshes, who is looking for the true way to serve the old gods after her sisters failed to do so properly.
And the place where you served your apprenticeship is there's something odd about the cliffs there, isn't there? Do you want to tell us about that? Because it's such a lovely, evocative vision.
Some of the strata of the cliffs that face the sea have a high concentration of iron, which means when they get wet, they look as if they're smeared with blood, which is most times.
I'm not going to ask you at this point whether those sisters who failed um, were sacrificed on those cliffs or whether they're still out there in the world. We'll leave that for you to tell me later on. So those are our three players. I have one question left. We've done a little bit of setting creation around the bloody cliffs and all the rest, but there's a couple of prompts left which I'd like to just run through. I'll go from left to right. So starting with Arianwen. I'm curious, Arianwen, how did you receive or become aware of your gift?
I remember getting caught in a rainstorm and running as fast as I can until I couldn't run any further and collapsing. And when I was unconscious, God spoke to me in a dream and told me to get up and that I had an important task to do. And that's when I knew that I was special.
Brilliant. If you want to put some words or phrases in that little prompt 5 box, just as an aid memoir, that will be brilliant. Let's move next to Qellen, the Celtic Mystic. How did you receive? Because while you were apprenticed and training in the powers of the old gods, that's miracle and wonders. Not everyone is gifted with that. Some people are just treated as wise men or wise women. So how did you receive or become aware that the old gods of Britain had gifted you specifically with these miracles and wonders?
When I was just a child, before I was found by my sisters, there were several rumors that I was touched by the devil, that I had different curses afflicting me, and eventually my parents were pressured by the village to abandon me, set me on a float out on the water. But I kept finding my way back, despite storm, despite starvation. And one time I found my way back to those very cliffs. And that's when I knew I was supposed to be there.
Thank you very much. Again, some words or phrases in that box, just so we've got some stuff to remember going back. And finally, not all demons are gifted with pain's balm, Sal. When did you receive or become aware that your demonic master, mistress, it had granted you with this specific power?
When I restored the strange man that was washed up upon the beach, who spoke in tongues, I laid my hands upon him, and he got to his feet, rambled on about his brother, and ran off into the distance.
Right. And I presume that in that you were in your mortal seeming as Sal rather than your demonic form.
Indeed, yes.
Fine. Again, put a couple of words in there just to give us something to hang that on, and then we'll go round to the final question, which is, we have a demon, a Christian, and a pagan Britain. You are not the obvious company that you would keep. And yet somehow your patrons, your various patrons, have either sent you a sign or a portent or some event has, in the words of this, enables you to say, how did you come to understand that you've shared a destiny with the other heroes? And again, I'll go back round and start with Arianwen. How did Arianwen know that her destiny was somehow tied to these others and that one that we haven't created because that player isn't here till next time?
God told me to find the holy people and to protect them. And when I came upon each of these two, I saw rays falling down upon them from heaven. And I knew that they were the ones.
Wow. Black Sal illuminated with heavenly light. I love it. Okay, put a couple of words or phrases in there just so we've got something again that we could perhaps hark back to if it's appropriate. Sinner, how did you come to understand that you shared a destiny with the others? We know how Arianwen found you, but I'm wondering what encouraged you to believe that, or maybe to believe her when she said, "We're bound."
Several times every night I tossed the bones, and they never said otherwise.
Bones confirmed that. Okay. And finally, Sal, must have been a bit of I mean, your desire, because, you want to earn God's forgiveness so you can return to heaven. Um, did was Arianwen describing this heavenly light shining on you the thing that prompted that, or was there something else that drew you to them?
I think it's maybe one-upping my master. Um, Basically, we are all here to stop a great evil that even my master is scared of.
Ooh,
So,
okay,
yes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So,
enough said. Okay. Um, so that's our setup, and I guess then what we would see at the end of this Netflix pilot series, at the start of this Netflix pilot series, is we see the three of you trekking through the land, um, and you come to a low rise, and look down upon a settlement. And at this point, folks, you need to check out the moves on the arriving tab. When the heroes first come in sight of a settlement, the fates will name it. It's Dincynog, in Gwynedd, in the Kingdom of Gwynedd, the Christian British Kingdom of Gwynedd, um, and give the players the opportunity to begin to shape the theme of the darkness. The broad thrust of this game is that each settlement that you reach will be in some way at risk from this growing darkness, this enemy, this foe, this whatever it is, evil across the land. But you now have an opportunity to shape the nature of the darkness as it is existing here. So, i.e., the reason that their hero supernatural patrons have guided you here. The fates will prompt each hero to say something about the settlement, such as, well, let me start in a different place this time. Let me start with Qellen. Qellen, describe something unusual, concerning, or suspicious that you can see from a distance.
The buildings are much more tightly built together than would be normal. Even the tanners are very close to the village.
Fine. Fine. Buildings are very close together, oddly close together. Yeah, okay, I like that. Let's go next to Sal, Sister Sal. Sal, what's the emotion or memory that is stirred in you when you look down on this settlement with its buildings cramped together?
I think joy,
Okay. Do you want why does it stir joy in you?
because the village reminds me of my village,
Well, when you say your village,
or the village in Lindsay.
fine. Okay, fine. stirs joy, reminds Sal of the village in Lindsay. Okay. Um, and finally, Arianwen. Is there a dream? Because it seems to me you are a dreamer, you are a visionary, you are touched by God, and God speaks to you. Has there been anything that you see down there that prompts you to recollect a recent dream, vision, message?
Yes. Not recollect, dive under a bush and then come out again. So I think the middle of the village is built around a church, right? This is a Christian area,
It
right?
is.
So the village is built around the church, and I had an image of a church with an enormous black thing squatting on it. With its claws, gripping the roof of it. Um, and and so seeing the church terrifies me for a moment.
Fine. I like that. We can refine that with a bit more effort in a bit. So there are going to be 3 significant people in this village. You are now going to create the 3 significant people they could be supporters, they could be antagonists, they could be supporting cast, however you want to describe them. Yeah. Because our camera, having seen you come up onto the rise and then panned around to the village and focused on the cramped, tightly packed village huts and the church in the middle, and Arianwen kind of shocking back, and then perhaps looking at Black Sal, who's smiling joyously and flashing back to the village near the place of power of the Lords of Hell in Lindsay. We now zoom in towards the village. You're still observing, but the camera drones in and picks out 3 individuals. Now, I want each of you. Now, again, if I ask you to go to the village tab, which is Dincynog, in capital letters there next to arriving, you will see it says significant people of the settlement. And the way you describe these significant people is you have a descriptor and a role. So Paul's done this before, so I'll let Paul go first. Paul, who does our camera first pick out among the villagers? What's their descriptor? What's their role?
I'm going to. I'll pick this time rather than roll. I'm going to go for a lustful.
Yeah.
Priest.
A lustful priest. Fair enough. Now, the priest, they are part of the higher echelons of this village. And so you'll see in a little kind of schematic map next to it, Paul, you'll see the hall, and there's a box in there that I would like you to put our lustful priest in. And if you scroll down the page, you'll find some example male and female British names. Roll or pick, take your pick. Let me go. The reason Paul has ticked the box next to lustful and priest is that now lustful is off the table, folks, and so is priest. So I'm looking for a different character. Qellen, who does the camera next pick out?
We have a cowardly herder.
Like that? Yeah. And again, if you want to go down and decide whether that's a male or female name and allocate a name to that from row 33 down, you can roll some dice for that if you want to, or just pick one you like. There are no marks for Welsh pronunciation. And finally, Arianwen, who is the 3rd person that our camera finds?
He's going to be a pious servant.
A pious servant.
And
Brilliant.
she's the thrall. I mean, or the carryover equivalent.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine. So make a note of, so that is somebody again in the hall, come up with a name. If she's a servant and she's been
Or is it?
taken
Oh,
in,
I'm saying, yeah, it's one or the other. Hall or village. I misunderstood.
is that okay?
I think, yeah, I'll just make her a servant then.
Okay. If that is a servant who's been who is in effect a slave, because I just want to check our lines and
Yeah.
veils. I think we had an interest in slavery. If you want to pitch her as a slave, that's fine. In which case she could have a Saxon name because she may have been taken by a war band from a Saxon kingdom. So take your pick.
Yes.
Yeah. And then let's go back round to our lustful priest. Sal, the camera finds Bran, the lustful thief. Father Bran, brother Bran. Let's go with father. The lustful Christian priest. And what does the camera pick out that we see Bran doing that gives us a sense of his lustfulness? And we need to be aware of our lines and veils here.
Of course. We see him staring out of an upper floor window of the church, staring down upon two women, hard to tell who it is. Either Elfgiver, the pious servant, or Effa, the herder.
Fine. Okay. Let's have you staring down at Elfgiver, the pious servant, then. Yeah. And that naturally draws the camera to Elfgiver, who is a pious servant, a slave, taken in war, perhaps. What do we see Elfgiver, Brandon, Arianwen? What do we see Elfgiver that suggests that she is pious? And I guess you might want to indicate, where does this pious belief, where is it focused? Has she stuck with Woden the All-Father and the Saxon gods, or is she taken up Christianity?
I think she's taken up Christianity. And we see her for some reason praying in secret. She is in like a corner of the pantry, behind some shelving where no one would readily look. And she has taken out a tiny cross, which she does not wear, from her pocket. And she is uttering a prayer to the Almighty for deliverance.
Mm.
And then someone yells at her to get back to work.
I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we see the priest, Father Bran, looking down at her as she disappears into the hut that serves as the bakehouse, kitchen, cookhouse for the hall. And then we see that this seems very odd. We've got a priest, we've got a church, and yet she's praying in secret. Perhaps she doesn't want people to know that she's praying. I don't know. The answer to these questions and more questions to answer shortly. Finally, Cinna. As the camera drifts back to Effa, the cowardly herder, what do we see that gives us a sense of either her role or her character?
She's currently watching her animals, but she's sitting on the steps of the church, which is a significant distance away from her herd. Because she's scared of something that's out there.
Okay. Watching animals from a distance. Okay. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. I would normally call a break now, but I'm going to push on for a little while because I want to do two other bits of setting creation, which is nearby places of interest. So this time I think let me start, Cinna, with you. You'll see there's nearby places of interest and a descriptor and and a kind of what place is it. Do you want to pick a place or a descriptor for somewhere that the camera is about to see in the middle distance?
I'll pick the stinking descriptor.
Stinking. Okay. Okay. Arianwen,
Yes.
what is that stinking descriptor attached to? You get a whiff on the breeze and your eyes are drawn to?
Initially,
What?
I was going to go with a swamp, but I think actually it is a volcanic vent
A vent.
that
Okay.
stinks of sulfur, like a crevice to the underworld.
Okay. So can we tick caverns for that?
Yeah,
Because
caverns.
there's an invitation to enter that vent, isn't there?
If you can stand this, if you can stand the
It is
the
Chekhov's
pestilential
vent.
odor.
So we have a stinking
Wait.
vent stroke cavern. Okay. Um,
Where am I checking that?
Let me then ask Sal, do you want to create place or descriptor?
Let's roll a place because you
Okay.
can't go wrong without
D66 and then use them as either, 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so we're in the 3 to 4 area. So I'll then roll a D5 because we've already picked one.
Oh, that's very sophisticated.
Yeah.
I was going to roll a D6 and ignore a 6. I mean, but you're far too sophisticated.
A sinister something.
A sinister. So we've got a stinking crevice vent cavern and a sinister.
As do I.
Cinna, what would you like to be sinister?
I mean, sinister being derived from Latin, it's just appropriate to make it a Roman ruin.
Of course it is. Brilliant. Okay. So we have those two locations near at hand, and we will now take our break. Is a break until 1/4 long enough, or do you want a bit more? Okay, back in our seats at 1/4. I'll pause the recording while we have a commercial break. So as we come back from our first commercial break, a final figure is picked out as you begin to head down the slope towards the fields and pastures surrounding this village, which seems surprisingly cramped. We see Lady Cyril at the doors of the Great Hall. Lady Cyril is the lady of the hall, the lady of the village. She is the landowner here. But she has something hidden beneath her cloak. It's very clear that she is tucking something away beneath her cloak, because she is secretive, Lady Cyril, and I've added her to the village. We can get rid of that bit, so we just got the village. Okay. The next bit of arriving, we've created the setting. Now the shadows will manifest. So you're on the arriving tab. As the heroes approach the settlement, the fates will ask them to build on the developing fiction and frame the opening scene by agreeing where the inciting incident occurs. Cinna, I'm going to you. Where does Qellen want this to begin? At or just outside the settlement's boundary? Within the boundary, somewhere in the village? Or at the threshold of the Great Hall? Or maybe inside the Great Hall when you're offered some hospitality?
I think just within the village.
Okay. Can I ask you, is there any kind of stockade around the village, or is it just just a ditch and a mound to create some kind of boundary, more for animals than anything else?
I think there's like a hastily constructed kind of fence that has like sticks pointing outward that are arranged all around.
So more like sharpened stakes than a fence? Sharpened stakes. Okay. Okay, I like that. Then the fates ask them to agree what form the insight incident takes. Let me go to Brandon. What does Arianwen want? Is there a heated conversation between NPCs? Does something supernatural occur? Or does someone or something make a surprise or unexpected entrance or arrival? Or something even more flavorful or interesting happens?
Um,
I'm interested in the category, and then I'll fill in the
so
details
the
in a bit.
category, so the character, I guess it would be a surprise or unexpected entrance or arrival.
Fine. Let me ask Sal, Sister Sal the nun, to start shaping that for me then. Someone or something makes a surprise or unexpected entrance or arrival. The fates will ask who or what arrives and what they or it does before anyone can act. You've just crossed the threshold. You've made your way through some of these stakes. What emerges as a surprise here, Sal?
I think a rider arrives on a sickly horse.
Okay. I'll come back to him. Fine. Or her. Which?
Him. We haven't had many hymns.
Arrives on a sickly horse. Fine. What do they do before anyone can act? Sinner? What does Qellen see this rider arrive on a sickly horse? What happens when we see this rider kind of gallop, trot? You tell me.
The horse loses control over itself, or the rider loses control of the sickly horse, and they collide into the barrier.
Oh, oh. And are we talking about impaling the horse on one of these stakes?
Of course we are.
Fine. Just want to check my domestic animals. Domestic animal abuse. I don't think that counts as abuse. That's just a sudden and quick death. Unless anyone objects to that. X-card me now. So this animal stumbles to one side, obviously exhausted and sickly, and keels over onto one of those stakes and expires. The rider falls to the ground. Sal, what, if anything, do you do?
Well, I do have 2 start of session moves.
You do. Do you want to activate those now?
I think we'd need to get them out of the way, yes.
Okay.
So,
when you arrive at a settlement, an infernal emissary appears to you. Remind them and us of a cruelty you once inflicted on hell's behalf and roll plus favor. So let me ask. I think that we see the horse keel over. All 3 of you look in that direction as the rider slumps onto the ground beside it. Blood streams down one of the stakes. People around you are turning, and then time freezes. We see a trickle of blood slowing and stops as an emissary of your hellish master. How do they appear to you, Sal? This emissary from the Lords of Hell.
I think they rise out of a puddle.
A puddle of blood.
Why not?
Yeah, okay. So out of this comes, and I think probably we don't see any detail because that would be giving too much away at this early in episode 1. We see the blood just running over this form as it comes out of the ground. Remind them and us of a cruelty you once inflicted. So this emissary leans towards you and says, Ah, Sal, your mission on Earth. We are concerned that you have become distracted by it. Why should my lord continue to send you gifts and power? Remind them of why you are sufficiently cruel to be granted this power again.
And I think I'll turn to the figure and say, my lord, the omens are great. The sickly horse reminds me of the time when I poisoned the village with tainted meat. So it shall be again.
Let's see how convincing you are. It says roll plus favor, 2d6 plus favor.
7, 8, 9.
9. On a 7 to 9, they demand you face the challenge of impressing them during this session with a cruel or malicious act that mocks mortal and their puny faith. Yeah. So put a tick in the box because now we've done that start a session move, so we don't have to do it again. By the end of this session, you have to do that. If you refuse or fail to impress them, spend favor to demonstrate your humble civility at the end of the session, right? I don't think you've spent enough time in the presence of mortals yet to do seeming human, and demonic tongue doesn't yet play a part, I think. So that's what we see, and then that blood continues to run down, and the puddle is as it was a moment ago. Let me ask Loon, Arianwen, what do you do when you see this?
I look completely distraught, and I go up and I give the fence a shove, which accomplishes nothing. And I go, no, 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 this wasn't supposed to happen yet.
Okay. Are you seeking to get people's attention? Are
Yes.
you what are you so whose attention are you trying to get? Or whose attention is going to be got?
Anyone within the sound of my voice, because I'm being loud.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to accelerate the arrival of people, we think. Okay.
Yes.
Who are going
Going
to
to call
come and look at the horse and look at your odd behavior. So
Yes.
are you leaning into speaking in tongues here when you draw
Sure.
attention to yourself?
I may as well showcase my ability. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will hold up a hand and I will go, the Lord wants you to which, anyone Welsh thinks is British and anyone British thinks is Welsh.
Fair enough. When you draw attention to yourself by shouting what sounds like gibberish, say what clue your patron inserts into your rant about your life before you were touched. So this could be another fragment of
Yes.
memory.
It's a like a bottle, like a potion bottle. But yeah, I'm holding it in my hand.
Fine.
A little vial of something.
And roll plus favor.
Okay.
Oh, what a great start. Now, just to be on, just so this is a great opportunity for me to introduce you. There's a common move that says call on your patron. And if you call on your patron, it says when you are dissatisfied with the outcome of your roll, say how your playbook is relevant to your action, ask a patron for aid, and spend favor. And then you could re-roll one or both of those. And all it costs you is favor.
No.
Okay.
This is asking God for help in this would be completely inappropriate.
Okay, then the other one is if another hero is dissatisfied with the outcome of their role, so you need to tell us, are you dissatisfied with that? Because then one of the other heroes could step in and, in the words of the move, help another hero. Do you want someone's help with this?
Well, they might help. I'm obviously spouting gibberish and leading people to think, I don't know, whatever they're going to think.
Exactly. So at the moment, what's going to happen is, according to the move, On a 6-, they ignore you, but any other heroes in the scene are distracted by your antics, placing each of them at disadvantage on their next action. Sal, you look like you're going to say something, but you're muted.
I will grab unmute. There we go. I will grab the hand of Arianwen and say, "Pray with my God, Arianwen."
So help another hero. That sounds roll with the attribute the fate says is most relevant. I think that's either subtle or favor. Take your pick.
I think subtle.
Roll plus subtle.
Oh, that's a good roll. That's 11.
11 on a 7+. Sorry, no, on 7+, their outcome improves by 1 step. So that goes from fail to mixed success for Arianwen. And it's not 7 to 9, so there's no downside for either of you. So that kind of that calms people down. It gets the attention you want. So you end up with the 7 to 9 result for you, which is they are so caught up in your own gibberish. You are so caught up in your own gibberish that you are at disadvantage on the next action. So everyone is standing about looking at this, dumbfounded by this display, giving one of our heroes, other than you, an opportunity to do something while everyone else is disadvantaged, i.e. at advantage. Is there anything, Qellen, that you would be interested in doing here that you would prefer other people not to see, or I don't know?
Whatever that rider was trying to get to this village so fast, I want to find out what it is. Help them up.
Okay. So is this about talking to them or searching them as you help get them up?
Equal parts, but the talking is also about searching.
Okay. So I think this is facing a challenge because, they may take against it. So it's the common move, face a challenge, unless you've got a move that you think does it better. When you take the risk or act in difficult circumstances to overcome a challenging situation, i.e. doing this without anyone noticing, you get to roll with the attributes the fate says is most relevant, which sounds like subtle to me. Yeah. So roll plus, and remember, folks, when you roll with an attribute, put a tick in the box. Don't forget to do that.
Ding. Oh.
That's a 5 plus how many, I wonder, for subtle?
-1.
Oh, and I think, if I'm honest, Black Sal is helping Arianwen create the distraction that's allowing you to do this. Yeah? So on a 6-, mark shade and expect the worst. I'll explain shade.
Doesn't Qellen roll at they're at disadvantage, so doesn't Qellen get another
Oh,
dice?
yes, they do. I beg your pardon. Yes. Yeah, roll another dice, Qellen. Yeah, because they're at disadvantage. The crowd is
best of 2.
Take the best of 2. So you're looking for more than a 5.
You roll big.
Yeah, you do.
No.
Yeah, that's not big enough. Best laid plans. Despite all of that, you fail. I'll mark shade, which is just a clock that is telling you how bad things are getting. And expect the worst. His hand comes up and he seeks to stab you. You throw yourself away. I'm not, the way that harm works in this game is largely around plot armor in the first instance. If you look at row 26, folks, you'll see there's a block of stuff there called condition. Wearied, wounded, dying. The way this works is you start top left and you work your way down. So you mark wearied as you throw yourself back and perhaps bang yourself on another one of these stakes, but no blood is drawn. But he tried to stab you, Qellen, and stumbles to his feet. Sal, Arianwen is probably still gibberishing, but I'm just curious what you're doing after you kind of helped her.
I will quickly turn to this man that is uh, got to his feet
Stumbled to
from
his
his.
feet. There's some sign of disorientation.
Uh, Come, my friend, is that the best you've got after such a long ride? A warrior?
Um, I think I need you to look about you because we don't know anything about him yet, do we?
No.
So roll plus sense or ask a patron for aid and roll plus favor. Take your pick.
Uh, 10. I rolled a 5 and a
Wow.
4 plus 1.
Wow. On 10 plus 7 plus pick one. The Fates tells you something relevant. He's not a warrior.
Okay, he's not a warrior.
He is, well, he probably has some skill in arms, but he looks like a messenger. So he's a messenger. Um, do you want to tell me something interesting about him, apart from the fact that he is exhausted?
He is also sickly.
Right.
Great pustules.
Well, let's not get carried away. So he's sickly enough to fork. We don't want to let pustules appear in the first encounter. Pustules will develop, I'm certain. You gain advantage on a subsequent action if the fate agrees that what you have discovered or revealed is relevant to the action. He keels over, stumbled to his feet, saw off Qellen, and then goes down in a heap. So you have advantage to build on that if you want it, Sal.
Uh, yes, I think I would like to try and convince the townsfolk or the lordly folk. This man has ridden far. He needs your help. Bring him into the hall.
Yeah, I
Summon the
like that.
priest.
Are you unleashing? It's not demonic tongue, this is it? It's
No, I was going to use demonic tongue on him, but he's keeled over now.
yeah,
Uh, I think this is just a normal, subtle do
convince
what I
them.
say.
Okay, let's have you roll plus subtle then to convince them to do what you say swiftly with no argument.
With advantage, yeah?
With advantage.
I'd be surprised if this fails. That ain't a good roll, though.
Best two comes to 6.
6, 7, 8.
8, 7 to 9. They agree, but they pick one. It takes longer, you hope. No. They need someone else's agreement. I think that this does take a little while because someone runs to the hall to get Lady Cyril. And so Arianwen, there is time here while Lady Cyril is coming if you wanted to do anything with it, but there's no obligation on you to do anything.
Yeah, because of my dream, I think that either this place is beset by wickedness or wickedness is coming to it, and I think maybe it's coming to it. And so um, I'm going to look at the townsfolk and see who I should talk to.
Okay.
Someone knows something that I need to know. I am persuaded of it. And I look at them all with kind of manic eyes,
Yeah, these wild manic eyes. So let's have you look about you then. Let's see if you can identify the right person to talk to. So roll plus sense, or seek the aid of a patron and roll with favor instead.
I got a 7.
Okay, so on a 7, was that with favor or with subtle?
No, that was with sense,
With
as you said.
sense, sorry. So with sense, I will tell you that there is a very worried looking young woman um, who is clearly, there's a general level of concern, but she is looking scared.
And I go, no, it's it's fine, my child. There's no reason to fear. God has come now, and all will be set right.
Um, I think I'm going to have a runaway.
Okay.
at this point. But I think you can assume that you have a degree of advantage with that individual when you find out who and where she is. But then I think we cut to within the hall, where a group of villagers are laying this rider out on one of the tables in the hall. Lady Cyril is there. Her servant is there. Was the young woman who ran off Arianwen this servant or somebody else?
It was her.
Fine. Okay. So you have some connection with her that will give you some advantage if you want to use it. And then Lady Cyril looks at this young man and says, what is wrong with him? And then looks around at you three. Anyone want to offer an opinion?
I look very
Qellen.
uncomfortable and says, "Okay."
Qellen, you're standing there looking at this. The Celtic Mystic invariably has a view. What if anything do you say to that as she looks around at you? Because you get the feeling she thinks that you arrived with him.
Hmm. This man, even if no matter what message he brings, he himself is a message. He comes from somewhere with a great pestilence. I think you have doomed yourself by bringing him here.
And I don't think I make you roll for that. I think she just takes 2 steps away from the figure on the table with a look of horror and throws her cloak across the front of her face.
Oh, don't worry. If I am right, then you are already afflicted.
Poked you with my staff. Like
Poke
you're not
Qellen
supposed to
with-
say. You're not supposed to say that.
Am I supposed to lie to the lady?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You'll be fine.
I roll my eyes.
Sal?
Don't worry. Pray, my children. My God, the God, will heal this man of disease. Watch.
And I think as you say that, we cut to the face and we see the pustules beginning to form.
Is this a good time for me to roll seeming human?
I think it's more a time for you to roll Payne's Balm, and how that goes might then that'll tell me how much attention she pays to you in a good way or a bad way, and then we might
Okay.
get to seeming human. So I assume that you're leaning into Payne's Balm here.
Indeed, I am.
Okay. Invoke your gift is a common move. When you call on a patron to empower your gift, agree with the fates what success will look like and roll plus favor. What will success look like, Sal?
Success will be that the pustules dry and flake.
Okay. Roll plus favor, please.
Didn't really want that to happen.
So how much is that? Just for our millions of
5.
listeners? 5. Okay. So not 7 plus then. So your demonic lord does not empower your gift. On a 6 minus, expect the worst. And as you lay on your hands, the pustules spread and appear on the backs of your hands.
You want some help?
Sadly, help another hero doesn't work on anything related to their gift, because that's all about them and their god. Nor does call on your patron, because your patron's already abandoned you, Sal.
Indeed.
But that does suggest to me that this would be a good time to roll seeming human.
Okay, I've decreased favor by 1,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done.
making this roll slightly harder.
Oh, no, sorry. No, you don't know. If you read the move, I think you're remembering the old move. On 7 plus,
Oh, okay.
spend favor. If they're not interested, you don't spend.
Okay, so 9.
9. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So on a 9, seeming human, any mortals you encounter during the session are inexplicably suspicious of you, so you make social rolls with
Well,
disadvantage.
I think they're clearly suspicious because I'm covered in pustules now.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So now not only are there pustules, but Qellen is proven to be right. And so the lady of the hall says, get him out, get them both out. Arianwen, Qellen, do you take this poor fellow out with Sal?
Yes.
Arianwen, do you put
God will protect me.
Okay, of course he will. Of course he will. So you drag him out. Qellen, do you help or not?
I take a bottle out, and I put some drops on his forehead. It looks like a holy water bottle, but maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
It's not, because there's a priest of God move that kind of does that. But
Okay, well
you
then it's
you
not.
you think it's holy, and the other
I
two saw
do.
you fill it from that stream earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
but I did bless it,
you
so there
did
we
bless
go.
it, and you are a saint in waiting. So Arianwen, you get your shoulder under one of this poor fella's arms and head outside. Qellen, do you help
Yes,
Arianwen or not?
I am staggering with the weight of this
I would have
fellow
thought so.
because I'm not a very large person.
Though,
I'm more feisty than burly.
Qellen, do you help or not?
I do not help. Uh,
Fine.
Kellen has these like large, like open, staring eyes, and she just lingers staring at the lady before following Arianwen outside.
Sal, do you help Arianwen, or does Arianwen just drag this poor fellow out?
No, I think I have to help. That's a bit of a cause of it.
Well, yes, yeah, fair enough. So the two of you take him outside and just lay him down on the ground outside,
Yes,
or take him somewhere else. What's
yes.
the
I totally carry him like Christ carried the cross, you know. With one arm over the shoulder. Yes, absolutely.
while Sal tries to take some weight? Um, and lay him down on the ground, or I don't know, take him to the church. Where?
Church, I feel. Ariane went to the church. Only God can heal him now.
It's true. And there was a black thing in the church, so it would be fulfilling my vision. Yes, I think we have to go to the church.
Sal,
And then the wickedness will come to the church, and then we can fix the wickedness.
there you go.
Yes, yes, she says, and she's like
Wickedness
counting
will
on her
indeed
fingers.
come to the church.
Let me
Faith in that.
just tie up the loose ends there. So Sal, you feel more tired than you ought to be, so you can mark wearied, please. Qellen, keeping your distance means that you don't pick up the infection. Um, but Arianwen, you've been in close contact with this man. Would you roll to face a challenge, please? And I
Yeah,
think that this is steel or favor.
I think it's probably.
Is
I
it your
mean,
physicality that resists the contagion, or is it God?
I think if God wants me to get sick, I'll get sick. But I don't
Okay,
know, so I don't know what God wants.
so roll plus
So
steel.
I'm going to roll steel. 8.
8. 7 plus, you succeed. So you do not come out in pustules as quickly as Sal. Um, but you are wearied by the experience. So mark wearied, your first harm.
Well, he was
Uh,
heavy.
he was very heavy. And so Kellen, you follow them out.
Yes.
Um, and
I'm
I
gonna I'm gonna catch up to them as they're talking about bringing him to the church and hoping the black thing shows up. The man is already sick. You intend to use him as bait?
No, I think I he can he I think the evil is in him. And so if we bring him to the church, then it will have come to the church and then we can fix it. Or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Like eating a rock under a cat. Very well.
I think more like
Yes.
evil in a place of the Christian God. How do you feel about that, Sinner?
Helen,
Kellen, sorry.
Well, I figure there are frequently evil things coming through the house of the Lord.
He's not your Lord, is he?
Well,
No,
you
but
don't
he was
seem to have
sent.
given him a proper name, and I refuse to call
Oh,
that thing a god, so you pick.
let's call him Bran. That's a good name.
Bran.
Yes.
Fine.
so there is definitely then some level of panic in the village. Um, People initially kind of ignore you as you drag him across the ground towards the church. Um, but then Lady Serial appears at the door of the and is calling, come quickly, quickly, quickly. And behind you, you can see that she is ordering the table that you laid him on to be taken outside and burned. Um, and it doesn't take long before the village as a whole thinks that there is contagion. There is evil, an evil spirit stalking the village, and it has infected him, the rider, the unconscious rider. And apparently, you see that one there? Yeah, yeah, the priest. Yes, the priest, the nun's infected. Are you covering up the boils on the back of your hand, Sal, or are you flaunting them?
I think flaunting them.
Fine, fine. Um, the church, but before we get to the church, another bit of mechanics. The way this game works is that you need to get insights into the nature of the darkness. And when you get sufficient insights into the nature of the darkness, you'll have a decent chance of correctly identifying the source of the darkness and then confronting it. So, can you see that on the village map? There's a section called Insights. Um, I think that I think Qellen was the first one to say this is a contagious disease. So I'm going to write Qellen. Oops, a daisy, can't spell though. As the hero there. What insight do you believe that you now have? And in order to solve the mystery here, you will need to string these insights together into a reasonably coherent narrative. Those of you that have played a game carved from Brindlewood or whatever will have some familiarity with it as a broad mechanism. The difference here is that you tell me what the insight is. So what insight have you been granted here, Qellen?
Mm, Is is this supposed to be based on something that we've experienced here, or can I provide something new?
Well, as long as it builds on the fiction, right? You need the
Right.
fictional positioning for what you're suggesting. So you can't just pluck stuff out the air.
Right. I think it spreads from animals.
Okay, so if I write into that first insight, the pustules spread from animals, what I'm very happy to do is as you disappear into the church, we see a villager or a couple of villagers salvaging the horse. And as they turn it over, they'll notice pustules down one side of the animal's body. Fair enough? The pustules spread. Oh, spread. I can't spell spread. Spread from animals. Brilliant. And then we're in the church. Arianwen, I've a suspicion that you have a view of the church, given that this was part of your vision, and I think perhaps as you come in, the priest of the village priest stands and turns towards you. He appears to have been praying before the altar.
Um, I say to him, Father, God wants you to come and help this man who needs the grace, his grace to be healed. I can see that you are a good man.
And I think that there's no way the audience can mistake the fact that his attention is drawn to the three of you before it focuses on the your burden. There's a very appraising look, and I'm just wondering. We've got our Celtic Mystic has staring eyes and distinctive clothing. Does that distinctive clothing mean that it's very clear where your center of belief lies, Qellen?
Uh, no, I think it's more so distinctive in that you could pick her out in a crowd, in
Okay.
that she has like a lot of different pieces of clothing that are kind of patched together.
Okay. I think his eyes skim across that. They move on to Arianwen's, how are you described? Wild-eyed and patched clothes. And his eyes settle on Sister Sal with her spiritual garb and her fascinating aura. Um, and his eyes linger on Sal because we know already that Father Brown is a lustful priest. But then he shakes his head and what was that, my child? A sickness?
Yes, one that requires immediate intervention. God has brought us here to purge this place of so many things, and the sickness is one of them. Oh, and I start to cry.
And he comes over. Now, Sal, you've not been shy about the pustules on the back of your hands. And he clearly wants to, spend time talking to you rather than Arianwen. But then he sees the pustules. Do you cover up the pustules in order to maintain this the attraction he's clearly displaying towards you?
I think I need to, yes.
So the hands disappear inside the sleeves of your robe.
Do I need to
Um,
roll to disguise them?
no, I don't think so. Not at this point. I think we'll see how this goes because he is going to find something odd about you in a bit because of the seeming human outcome. Helen, what about you? Arianwen is crying. Sal looks like she's setting up to flirt. What, if anything, are you doing, Kellen?
I assume I've heard Arianwen speak about the evil she's seen
Yeah, all
over
of that
this
is shared.
church.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look around the church itself for any sort of little hints about that.
I was staring at the altar.
Yeah, but I think that Helen knows that you've had this vision of this thing squatting on the
Right.
church, so it can be more general than that. So yeah, let's have you look around you, Kellen. Roll plus sense,
All right.
or seek the guidance of the old gods and roll with favor instead.
Now, my gods wouldn't know about this church.
Fair point.
11.
Wow. So, pick one. Well, actually, I don't think he's revealed as a threat yet. So the Fates tells you something relevant, or they may ask you to suggest something that interests you. I think I'd like to know what interests you that you notice here that the camera picks out as you look at it.
I think it's more a feeling rather than a visual thing. It's that the church is colder. The walls are sturdy, they have pelts on the benches, but the church itself still feels like it's horribly drafty.
Fine. And maybe we just catch the hairs on the back of your arm just rising, and some goose pimples appear, and a shiver. And maybe there is the sign of some condensation on the wooden wall, as if it's colder in here than it ought to be. I like that. Um, Sal, he comes towards you and says to Arianwen, be at peace, child. I will help. But then, sister, he says, using your clerical connection, inverted commas, even though we know you're a demon, he doesn't. Um, uh, what brings you here, and how can I be of assistance?
Father, this man has collapsed at the town gates. And I've tried to ask our Lord to heal him, and I fear our Lord has forsaken me.
Oh,
Point and
no, no.
nod and cry some more.
No, no, sister. God is full of forgiveness. Whatever you have done, he will never have forsaken you. How wrong could he be? Um, um, how can I help?
Maybe you could tell us why this man has come to this town.
Um,
You're knowledgeable, a man of God.
um, let me think then. I think that this is. I think this is face a challenge. I think this is. Has he got something to share, and is he prepared to share it with you? It's not convince. So, but it does look like you're using your womanly wiles. So I think this is subtle, but of course there is something odd about you. So you're at disadvantage. So roll 3 dice, take the bottom two, and add subtle, and we'll see how that challenge goes.
My subtle is 2, so 3d6. Couldn't get much worse than that, could it?
Oh, 115. So 6 and 2 is 8.
No. It's
No,
lowest
no.
2.
2 and 2 is
Oh,
4.
disadvantage. Sorry. Yes. God. Thank goodness somebody's keeping track of the rules. So I will mark shade again. That's all good. Um, and oh yeah. And as he comes towards you, and goes to put a hand on your shoulder as if to say, everything will be fine. Um,
Yep.
his eyes widen, um, and he steps away, saying, "Tis be gone, be gone." What do, Sal?
I think I will turn the pustules to face him and try and sort of say that is clearly what he's looking at.
Well, before you do that, do you want to call on your patron for help and get to re-roll 1 or 2 of those dice, or do you want to see if one of the others can step in and help here? Or are you content to live with that begone, foul creature of the night?
So if I re-rolled 2 dice, I could re-roll the 2 ones.
You could.
So I've got a 5 anyway, plus 2. Yeah, tell you what, yeah, let's call on my patron.
Well, and if this is not about furthering your agenda by lying to a priest, then I do not know what is appropriate. So
this will cost me a favor, won't
this
it?
will cost you favor because it says spend favor, and you can re-roll 2 dice and add one of them to that 5. Or
Okay.
you'll still take the lowest 2, but one of them is already 5.
6 and a 3.
So the 5 and the 3 is 8.
Plus 2. 10.
How does your patron intervene? What do we see on screen that turns that kind of look of horror and his step away into what is going to be, say how you approach grants you advantage, or impress an observer enough for them to owe you a debt?
Well, I think he does see the pustules,
Yes.
and that's why he's pushed back and stay away. But they miraculously in God's house, they miraculously heal and just sort of wither off my hands. God has saved me.
And when in fact it's a Lord of Hell. That's fine. Do you want to grant advantage in your relationship with him at this point, or would you prefer for him to owe you a debt?
I'm always still at disadvantage, aren't I, socially with this guy?
Yes.
So I think it's got to be the advantage to cancel that out. I need a level playing field.
Okay, the disadvantage is consistent with any social interaction with
Yeah.
anybody, but you have one advantage in your top pocket to use to dissuade him, to encourage him. So with all of that, I think he kneels over the stricken young man, um, and I think the sense you get is that he's acting in good faith. He asks you to help him get him further in, and then he begins to rummage in a cupboard in the corner of the church, looking for some tinctures or folk remedies or whatever else to try. So he busies himself with that. Arianwen, do you carry on crying, or is there something else?
Let's see. He's taking care of the man um who is sick.
Yep.
Um, can I just make something up in the environment?
What you can certainly suggest something to me, and I might even say, well, if you looked about you might see that, or you can just offer me
I
something up.
I'd like to look about me and see something. Um, see like a controversial saint.
Okay, so,
A statue or some carvings or something like that.
fine. I won't make you roll for that. I'm very happy for there to be several kind of fairly crudely carved saints images around here, but one of them is of a controversial saint. Um, what I might need to do is a little bit more digging about what makes them controversial, but we'll leave it at that. So yeah, there is among the
But
others a controversial saint.
well, I mean, not there's not like there's not an authority on who the saints ought to be, right? So
Exactly.
different countries probably have different saints,
And
and I'm
indeed,
going
no
to
one has yet recognized you other than you and God,
well,
obviously.
yes, well, everyone has to start somewhere. I'm going to snatch is this a little statue? I'm going to snatch up the statue and I'm going to dash it to the ground.
And he turns towards you, and that's where we have a commercial break. Back in 5 at 10 past the hour? Fine, I'll see you at 10 past the hour. So we're back from our break. We've added another insight, which is that statue that Arianwen picked out and destroyed, an odd statue of unknown or controversial saint, is the insight from that scene. So my question now is, the sick man is being treated by the priest, or at least being made comfortable by the priest. Um, a demon has intervened to heal Black Sal. Arianwen has not caught it, but is still susceptible, and Qellen has kept distance from this pustular infection. But I think as I've marked a bit more shade, I think I will have screaming from outside. Qellen, what do you do?
I'll take a brisk walk outside and check who it is.
There is a young girl shouting, "Ah, the animals have it, the animals have it." And she's being kind of comforted, calm down by some of the villagers.
I'm gonna wade into the crowd and like grab the girl by the shoulders. What animals?
Ooh. Um, I think that given that your reputation in the city is that you in the town is that you brought some infection here, I think I need you to face the potential challenge of someone getting in your way. Take your hands off my daughter, for instance. But let's have you roll plus um, steal or subtle. Is it the kind of is the physical presence that you're inserting in here, or is it the stricture of your voice?
Uh,
Or you could ask your patron for help and roll with favor, but that will cost you favor if it works. Because it sounded
oh,
quite kind of, what's going on? Which sounds to me like a fairly physical kind of intervention.
yeah, I am trying to like make her attention like snap to me and like answer me.
Yeah, that sounds like more intimidation than subtlety. So let's have you roll with steel.
All right. I'll take a 7.
Whoa, okay. 7 plus. You succeed, but the fates picks 1. Respite is temporary. You kind of break that kind of hubbub. Every once in a while, she looks at you, but they are not necessarily a neutralized threat. Depending on how this goes, they could turn nasty. Um, and she kind of looks at you and points over her shoulder. The, the the animals, 2 of them they've they've got the boils that were on the horse.
Have they been close to the horse?
I'm so sorry. I noticed it several days ago, and I was afraid to tell anyone, says Effa, the cowardly herder.
I'm gonna stand up, like make myself tall over the villagers, and like I'm not gonna give them any looks, but I'm just gonna let them realize that we didn't bring this.
That's an interesting one. I think that is probably convinced them. So it is how convincingly you can carry off this, because you don't describe yourself as a big woman. So I think that this is roll plus subtle, or seek the help of your gods and roll plus favor. The choice is yours.
I am gonna lean on, like, I'm not like those Christians in there, and I'm gonna roll with favor.
Fine.
And I do so very well. That's an 11.
Wow. Okay. So on 7 plus spend favor, so it costs you a favor.
Mhm.
But on a 7 to 9, on 10 plus, they agree and you pick one. Say how what they do grants you advantage, or they are so impressed enough to owe you a debt. Because there's kind of, oh, people shrink away.
Mhm. I think they're gonna be impressed more so that I got the right track there, and
Okay.
I'm gonna take the debt.
Okay. All the way down on row 50, I will put the village name in, and you can say they owe, and there's a drop down. It'll go from 0 to 1.
Oh, no, wait, there are two. There are two of them.
There,
There's one over
there,
here.
there are 6 possible, because you may sit on this for some time. So you're interested in,
Ah, this one. Okay,
you with me?
gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. And if you've got a moment, you can check out the debt and harm tab, which will tell you how you can spend that debt to your advantage now or much later. Um, so yeah, it is now clear you did not bring this. Um, and in fact, if Sal leaves, she'll be able to demonstrate that she is not infected, so there's no longer any chance of that. My question is, where do you next want to seek an insight? Do you want to
I
carry
know
on? Oh, go on, Arianwen. What do you want to do?
I need to talk to that girl.
The girl, the secretive prayer.
The one who ran away. Yes,
Yeah,
her.
yeah. Um, and
I
I
just
think
remembered about her. I had
uh,
forgotten, but
I
now
did.
I just remembered.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes.
Um, so I think that she has been left to supervise the burning of all the furniture that you or the visitor came into contact with in the hall. So in the middle of the village, there's the table you laid the poor fellow on, and maybe a couple of the stools that Lady Cyril thought you got too close to. And it's Elfgifa, isn't it? The Saxon captive slave thrall who is being left to supervise this. So you can see her standing over there by this bonfire. What do we see
Hi.
you do, Arianwen?
Hi. Um, I'm um, God wants me to talk to you.
Uh, um,
Is that all right?
yes.
Good, good. It's so much better when people say it's okay. I had somebody who was really afraid when I told them that God had come, and I think that they must have had some sin in their heart or something, which is fine. Everybody has sin. It's not a big deal. Um, but I was sorry that they were so burdened that they didn't want to talk to me. So this
Uh,
is much better.
yeah, she doesn't quite know how to react.
Hey,
I think it's fair to say.
anyway, in the church, one of the statues was uh, dressed up like a saint, but they're not a saint. Um, the rest had the light of God on them, and this one didn't. And if people are venerating a saint, that someone that's not actually a saint, God hates that, and maybe would withdraw his favor uh, from the village. Um, and so I thought I'd ask you.
Um, I'm not going to make you roll for this because I think you're leaning on her piety, which we know that she's a pious Christian, though maybe slightly secretive, and we know she has something against the church, or at least we think we do, from that very opening scene. So I think she looks nervously about and says, Come with me," and she'll lead you towards that bakehouse kitchen beside the hall, and look about and usher you in. I cannot stay long. But the lady of the hall will left me to oversee the burning of those things. Um, but
Seriously, and I, sorry, of
I too have sensed that there is something wrong with the church.
course. Why are we whispering?
Uh, I, I'm frightened that nobody else seems to notice it, and I don't want them to kill me as a witch or anything, because I'm not from around here, and you can tell from her accent that she's speaking the language with a Saxon twang.
I'm frightened too. Uh,
What do you want to do with this moment?
when was that statue put in? Do you know?
I don't know.
Ooh,
I don't know enough about the saints, but I've just had an uncomfortable feeling in there. It seems cold and damp, and sometimes I think I can smell something in there, and I just know
oh,
that God has turned his back on it.
yes, I smelled it too. I think it smelled like sulfur.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's a rock that when you set it on fire, it smells terrible. I know this because I tried once.
Oh, there is outside the village. There is a place that smells, and I have heard people say it smells of hellfire.
Ooh, really bad. Uh, I So how do we purge the church of this awful thing?
I don't
And
know.
I screw up my face and like think as hard as I can.
And then I
Um,
think we'll hear somebody shouting, El Gifa, where are you? And Lady Cyril is
that's
clearly,
you, I say.
yes, I know, I must go. And she leaves, but you can get an insight out of that encounter if you want it.
I do. Uh, let's see. The insights the puzzle spread from animals and an odd statue to an unknown saint. Um,
I will put
I think
controversial in there
okay,
because
controversial saint.
you did use that word as well.
Yes. Um, I think the church smells like hellfire, faintly, has a faint scent of hellfire.
What if I said, because what you want to do is to leave this as vague as possible so you can knit it together. So the
Yes.
scent of hellfire, dot, dot, dot. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
So now on the basis of that, you could seek to identify the root of the darkness here, rolling +1. But I'm curious if you want to pursue the hellfire line. Qellen, when we cut back to Arianwen describing this encounter with this young woman, with you and Sal, there, now you notice it. There is that scent of that stinking scent of volcanic sulfur on the wind coming from that vent come cavern that we identified early on from up on the hill. So I'm wondering, Sal, Qellen, either one of you? Sal, what do you think?
It would be a shame not to do a location move. So let's forget the Roman ruins. I think the noxious crevice, the Devil's Crevice.
What do you think, Qellen? Do you want to head for the Devil's Crevice?
That sounds like a good bet. Yeah.
Okay. So let me move the locations up. So I've moved the location moves up a bit closer to where we've been working on the tabs. So when you approach a location with this descriptor, and this is stinking, it says that I will foreshadow its risk and consequence and may ask the heroes to add detail to the risk before going on. So I think as you head towards this kind of it really is a bunch of stones with a crack in it. And as you approach it on the wind, there is the stink of hellfire, sulfur, brimstone. So I am foreshadowing that smell, and clearly, the closer you get to that, you get stinging in the eyes. It catches in your throat. There's a risk of retching. So that is the risk and consequence at play here. I need to confirm that you are continuing and asking which of you takes the lead.
I think we're
Going to continue.
Yeah, I thought you might, but I need to know who's taking the lead here. Yeah, Arianwen?
We're supposed to protect you. Yes.
Fine. Arianwen takes the lead. If you take the lead, say what you do to manage the risk and avoid the consequence. So how do you deal with the sting and or advise the others to avoid those effects? That stinging of the eyes, the catch at the back of the throat, the risk that you're just going to spend the next 20 minutes retching. Because as you get closer to it, it is very clear that it is venting from down there. So what advice or what action do you take, Arianwen?
So I go, oh, this is hellfire. So maybe we should do something to combat the hell. And so, okay, well, that would be great if we had a sensor, but we don't have a sensor. And I run through this litany of things we don't have. Okay, and I go, oh, but maybe we could just pour a little water of violets on our scarves and put them over our faces so we don't smell the sulfur. She says, producing a little vial of water of violets. And then I go, that seems like a very commonplace thing to do. But I suppose, given everything, it's the best thing.
Confront hellfire with violets. So yeah, I think that sounds like a very sensible approach to take. So you can roll with sense.
I'm going to roll with sense.
Or you can seek the help of a patron, roll with favor, and risk spending some favor. The choice is yours.
Sense, I think.
Sense. Roll plus sense.
10.
10. You're killing me, guys. So on 7+, you manage the risk and avoid the consequence. So this works. And I think, what do we see, Sal? As you make your way down this, it's not a chimney, it's slanting away from you. But give me a little bit of flavor for what we're seeing or feeling or hearing as you're heading down with these, this wrapped across your face. Sal, what do you think?
So we've got this over our faces, and I think it's it's not really hellfire, it's geological fault, but that's perfectly fine for people to believe that. I think there's also sort of, I don't want to say fire, but sort of a glow, an unknown glow from deep in this crevice.
Okay, so hot rocks and a glow. Qellen, give me something else about what you are feeling or hearing or sensing as we see you making your way down, following Arianwen down into the bowels of the earth here.
I think the lights down there, they are like bright and you can see them from far away, but they don't illuminate nearly as much as you'd imagine.
Right. So the darkness is oppressive. Okay, I like that. So on a 10+, say how you gain advantage as a result of your success. Well, I think that you not only aren't retching, but you make good progress. You're not at all distracted, Arianwen. The advice you offered them has worked well. Then we come down to, we've done location descriptor, now location place. When the heroes have negotiated the risk presented by the descriptor, the Fates uses the challenge seed. Now, I did write something down. What did I write down about this? If as you come down, you come out into this space, and it is like a scene from hell, in as much as there is lava against, this isn't geology, this is hellfire. The scent of brimstone is oppressive. The way across this lava is by jumping from one pinnacle to another, or edging around the sides. Pays you money, takes your choice. So that is the challenge you are facing. But I think there's that oppressive darkness, that unnatural darkness. It's almost like the glow of these hot rocks only gets up to about head height. And as you look up, there's just darkness above you. And there is something moving about up there. Now, I say, do you continue? And does Arianwen continue to take the lead, or does somebody else step up to take the lead? Qellen, Sal, do you want to take the lead, or do you want to leave it with Arianwen?
So something possibly above us.
In this peculiarly oppressive darkness.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Before we continue, I'm just going to pick up a small rock and just chuck it at the ceiling.
It disappears into the darkness and then emerges where you'd expect it to, and hits the lava and just slowly sinks into it as it's melted down.
I'm going to use my gift.
Ooh. Is this true sight?
It is. We are in a place of darkness, and I need to see something.
Okay. So I'm not going to make you roll to invoke your gift. I'm going to run the location move, but I'm going to use the favor that you would have used to invoke your gift. Yeah? So what I want you to do is to roll plus your current favor, Arianwen, and see what you can see. What does the sight reveal to you?
I have a 9.
Ah, right.
And
Uh,
am I using my sight? Arianwen closes her eyes
mhm.
and then looks about as if they were not closed.
Fine, fine. And we've not spent much of the special effects budget yet. Do
No.
we, the audience, get any feel for what it looks like from her side? Is it that the nature of her closes her eyes and suddenly everything looks different, or
Yes, everything is limned in a sort of silver radiance. That, and with some, things, if she looked at a wall, part of the wall might shimmer and other parts remain dark. It's all in black and white, but as if as if there was a sort of a silvery filter on the entire thing.
fine? So spend favor for the benefit of that. Um, but on a 7 to 9, you attract unwelcome attention, and that takes the form of the location move 7 to 9. The threat intervenes. Um, Something drops out of the darkness, Qellen and Sal. But Arianwen is able to say, beware, so you are not surprised by it. This dark shape drops from the darkness above you, Qellen. What, if anything, do you do?
You said we're not surprised
You're
because
not
we were.
surprised because Arianwen sees it coming.
I point and I cry out.
The sight.
I think I'm gonna take a well-measured jump to the side.
Okay, let's have you roll face a challenge to see whether you do avoid any incoming. Yeah. So that sounds like reaction, physicality, steel to me. Roll plus steel to
Mhm.
face that challenge of not being in its line of attack.
8.
8. So on an 8, mark one harm, I think. You stumble to one side, and just the next one down is your first wounded. So you just bruise a shoulder or something when you jump out of the way. Sal, what about you? You're not disadvantaged. What do you do?
Uh, I'm going to pull my knife out, slash my wrist. Not my wrist, my hand. Wrist's a bit too big. Uh, wrist, you've gone too far. Gone too far. Um, and I'm going to attack it with hellfire.
Okay, okay. So when you say so, are you marking one harm to get some favor back?
I am marking one harm to get favor back.
Right, so you tick that box. That's great. Oh, that's a great picture of Black Sal. No wonder the priest was interested. Um, uh, so you offer some god a sacrifice of blood and pain up to the demon horde. That gives you one favor back, and you're going to use that favor to unleash hell,
Yeah.
quite literally.
I
Yeah.
will turn to my friends and say, "This is hellfire."
What does this look like? Because again, now we're suddenly into the special effects budget. Everything could go. What do we see?
I think it is a glowing sort of that sort of gas blue, from light blue to dark blue, flickering. So it's not the Emperor Palpatine sort of electro blast. This is more sort of fire, but blue fire.
Fine,
Yeah.
fine.
Uh,
Let's have
so,
you roll plus favor then.
and my first attack is at advantage.
It is roll 3 because you took that as your modifier for a demonic attack.
So a 6, a 4 plus 2, 12.
12. Okay, so common move, confront them. I will tell you that in the light, now that we've kind of got a moment to take this thing in, it is a cave troll that has dropped from the ceiling. It's got long claws and prehensile toes, so it can move about. So this thing has a number of defenses that are going to make life difficult for you. It has a rocky skin, and it can climb quickly. Those are its two advantages. So it can move in 3 dimensions, whereas you can only move in 2. Which of those are you looking to negate with your Hellfire, Sal?
Its rocky skin. I think its skin starts to sort of glow molten blue.
Okay. So on a 7+, that defense is erased. Yeah. Now, when it doesn't burn the skin off, but you do not have to overcome that defense again. So the rocky skin is overcome. But they pick 1. They inflict harm as established on you. They force disadvantage on you. They take the opportunity to flee the scene. They use a power. I think it uses that power to climb quickly. It leaps at the wall and digs its toes and fingers into the wall to get further away from you, up into that darkness. Yeah. But then on 10+, you say how. You pick 1. Force them to where they are disadvantaged. Reduce harm by 1. They didn't inflict harm on you. Block all harm. They didn't inflict harm. Impress an observer. There's nobody here to impress. Or immediately regain the opportunity to humble them if they now have no defenses. It still has this ability to climb that you need to somehow overcome. So my next question, I suppose, Qellen, you jump to one side.
Can I take they are at disadvantage?
You can take they are at disadvantage. Hanging there by
Yeah,
one.
I think he's hanging by just quite a loose rock. Just
Fine.
sort of maybe his lower area is within range of somebody.
Okay. Qellen, you jump to one side. Arianwen opens her eyes and sees all this. I think, Qellen, I'll come to you first. What do you do?
I was thinking of invoking my gift, but it has so many possible effects that I got kind of lost.
Well, I mean, take a moment. There's no, we've got plenty of time. And at some point, you want to come to grips with it. I think the question for me is, do you want to frighten it away? Do you want to do it harm?
I was thinking that this troll is probably it's probably like eating the animals or something and it's making them sick. I was thinking of trapping it down here.
Oh, right. So how do you think you could do that?
Well, Sal mentioned it's hanging on by a loose rock. I'm thinking maybe I can cause a small cave-in.
That would seem reasonable. A cave-in that would leave it on the lava side and the 3 of you on the non-lava side. I assume that's the objective.
That would be ideal.
Fine. So you're going to try and trap it here with a rockfall. Invoke your gift. When you call on the old gods of Britain to empower your gift, we now know what success will look like. Roll plus favor.
All right. Oof.
Oh,
a 6.
Oh, dearie me. Now, call on your patron. Sadly, you can't use your patron to help you out with your gift. And no other hero can help you with something that involves favor. So you're all on your own. 6, expect the worst. You cause a rock fall. It falls on you. 2 harm. So you've already marked wearied. Now you mark wounded and then dying. So you're working down that column. But you're not dead till the dying column is full. So, everything's fine.
No, yeah. It's down, not across, isn't it? Or is it across?
It's down. So it's wearied, wounded, dying.
So
yeah,
like
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You only took 2 harm.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah,
that can't count.
Okay,
Don't die yet. Don't die yet.
That would be really embarrassing. there's a move called Beyond the Veil. So even when you die, there's always a get out of jail free card. So there is a rock fall, but sadly, it's the wrong rocks. Arianwen, you see this? Sinner Qellen goes down I'm sorry, Sinner. I keep calling you Sinner because I have a home game where there is a character called Sinner, and so I am. So forgive me, Qellen. Qellen goes down in a heap under a pile of rocks. Arianwen, the troll is still hanging on up there. What do you do?
I was considering just telling it to be gone, but as it's hanging by a thread here, and I have a long stick, I think I'm going to try and knock it off its perch.
Okay, let's have you. So this is about trying to dislodge it. You want to get away with, get rid of, climb quickly. Yeah?
Yes, that's right.
Fine. So this sounds like a very straightforward roll plus steal.
It is. But I also tell it to be gone as I whack it with my stick.
Of course you do. Of course. Begone, foul creature of the darkness.
Right. Begone, foul creature of the night. God does not want you to be here. And I hit it with my stick. I got a 9.
That is some kind of ruler you got there. So on a 7+, you erase that, so it's now defenseless. You now could humble it on your next go. They inflict harm as established on you.
Could I have had advantage?
Why?
Because what Paul did?
No.
Oh yeah, I placed them at disadvantage.
Yes, you did. Yeah. So if you want to roll another dice and take the top 2, that's fair. Yes, you're quite right. You disadvantaged them.
There we go. All right, that's a 13.
Well,
sorry, it's 11, not a 13. Sorry.
Wow, look at that. So on 7+, that defense is gone. They pick 1. I think they take the opportunity to flee the scene. Another claw comes up and they scramble up into the darkness. You hear them scrambling away into the distance. You have got the threat out the way, revealing a potential insight, Arianwen. What insight has your experience down here granted you?
I think it's, let me look at the actual insights here. So I think that we see like a gnawed animal bones.
Animal bones.
Which obviously domestic, animal.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay. So right now you could do a revelation at +2. But I think we will finish this episode with you picking up that bone and looking around in triumph.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have that insight. We'll come back next time and resolve that. Either go in search of another insight, or go with what you've got, and we'll have Will on site at the same time. But for now, I think I need to do end of session experience. Yeah. So let's have a look down here at the relevant bit, which is way down the bottom, roll 66. So let me start with our Loon. Arianwen, did your burden make a difference for good or ill? Did we see anything of your burden of wrath?
Yes, I smashed the statue in the church.
I think you did.
I'll go with that. Fury and offense on God's behalf.
So you could mark an XP for that. Did you address a challenge with lunacy?
I sure did.
I've loved your obsession with the fact that God thinks you're a saint and all the rest. I think you certainly were a loon today. So yeah, you can mark 2 XP for that. And you've still got, you've marked all 4 attributes. So you can clear those and add a 3rd XP. Yowza. And then moving along to our Celtic Mystic. Did your burden of, I think yours is wrath as well, did we see you being wrathful?
No, I only found what the actual burden is was like
I'm
50
sorry.
minutes ago.
I'm sorry. I should have pointed that out. I beg your pardon. Um, but next time we'll see some wrath next time. I know we will. Um, uh, did you address the challenge with ancient law?
No, I don't think so.
Didn't you draw on your ancient law to cause a rockfall?
Ah, yeah, I guess you could see it that way. Sure.
Yeah. So give yourself an XP for that. And Sal, did we see your burden of your manipulative nature in play here?
I think I tried to manipulate the townspeople to. Well, I did manipulate them to take the body in, which
You
was a
did.
silly
You
thing
did.
to do.
Silly thing to do. And I think you also successfully manipulated the priest. Yeah. So you can have XP for that. And did you address a challenge with forbidden knowledge?
I unleashed some hellfire.
You did. You did. So I think you'll have one. You can have 2 XP for that lot then.
More pressing, though, is the font of power.
Yes. Have you, in fact, forgotten about that?
No, I hadn't forgotten. A cruel or malicious act that mocks mortals and their puny faith. Well, I think I did sort of. I got Arianwen to sort of pray with my god, and that helped her. So yes,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I sort of subtly got
Yeah.
her to believe in her.
I didn't see that one coming, but I think that is fair. I'm
I'm
not sure
happy.
Arianwen saw that coming either.
Well, although if you think Arianwen doesn't know exactly what you are
Oh,
when she has true sight, you've got another thing coming, but she seems okay with it.
A god helped you.
yeah, that's fine. A god, yeah, yeah. With my god, bracket, small g, bracket.
No, he's sent by God, you know. That doesn't mean he's of God or godly,
No, exactly. He just
you know.
doesn't know he's been sent by God. He's
That's right.
already on the escalator up, but he just doesn't. She doesn't realize it yet.
Yes, redemption is in your future, whether you like it or not.
So I will keep seeming human ticked because we're still in this run, aren't we? This village.
We are. Yeah,
So,
as long as you
I
are here.
untick
Exactly.
the power.
No, you tick that one because when you arrive at a settlement, that's done now.
Okay. Then I think you need to change the during this session.
No, it's deliberate. You
Okay.
arrive in a settlement, and I want to see the mockery early on.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. Particularly because sometimes there might not be a second session.
Well, true. Yeah.
So, and we forget about it between sessions. That's what's happening in the post. So I'd like a quick stars and wishes, if that's all right. Sinner, I don't know if you've done this before, but I'll start with Paul because I know he has. Any stars, any wishes, Paul?
Yeah, I loved Brandon's Loon. You know, I always like a good Loon. I didn't see the sort of saintly Loon. That's a good twist on the Loon. Loved it, Brandon. Well played there. And I did like the Qellen sort of sinner with Qellen, the Celtic Mystic. I liked your when I got the pustules and Arianwen was eager to assist carrying the body out. I liked it. Ooh, let's I'll keep a good.
Back away here.
Well, it's a Christian problem. It's a Christian problem, not a Celtic problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that isn't ancient law, I don't know what is.
Exactly. So that was really nice.
Never go with the Christian ways. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely
That
solid.
was nice.
Like that.
Sinner.
Any wishes? Anything could be better if?
No, I sort of do like. I mean, I really like the increase your favor. I think that's once per session. That's nice. Very easy way to get it back up because we've suffered in the past with trouble raising favor, so that's nice. Although I'm the favor of supernatural patrons. You used to see a lot of that, and I'm not too sure. Are we going to see much of that? That those boxes down sort of 54 to 57.
That I think will the only real way to get there now is through Seek Solace. So you seek solace in friendship, and if it's a mixed success, you begin to honor other gods, other
Okay,
patrons.
got it.
Yeah.
Understand it now. Yes.
Um,
But no,
so
like it, Alan.
it
I
hasn't
definitely.
that bit hasn't changed, but it's dropped down the batting order a bit.
Okay, yeah, definitely liked the favors now are easier up and down.
Fine,
Definitely
good,
like it.
like that. Brandon, any stars, any wishes?
Oh yeah. No, first off, I love I love this group. A lunatic who thinks she's a saint, an actual demon, and then
Who appears to be a priest?
Qellen caught in the middle. It's like
None of this
um,
is my problem.
That's
it's all brilliant. Yeah, I thought Sister Sal was a perfectly lovely demon. Um, and Quellen's very pragmatic approach, I thought was a very apropos balance to everybody else's sort of radical take on whatever situation there was. I love the chance to play a loon. It's not a common playbook.
it's good
Um,
fun, I think, the loon.
it is fun, but I picked something that's very much in the sort of holy fool thing because I've always thought that's an interesting archetype, and I'm delighted that there's a playbook that caters to it.
Yeah,
Um,
my last loon was eating soil and claiming that mushrooms were the solution to everything. So this is a very different loon, and the loon is never the same twice. It's lovely. Um, any wishes? Anything you'd like to see next time? Anything you thought went, you could have gone better this time?
um, no, I thought this is all lovely. You'll have to tell me how favor goes up because I'm a little fuzzy on that.
Okay, well, we'll
Um,
cover that before we finish, just so you've got a
cover that,
moment to
but
think.
and wishes for next time. Casting out of demons would be great. Not
Mhm.
sorry, personal company not included.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
we need this one.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Um,
that's the perfect six
and
minus outcome, isn't it?
and of course, Sal is a believer, you know, in God, a completely devout and sincere believer in God, because
Just has to convince the lords of
well, no,
hell that
she just
motive
knows
is
she knows that God exists incontrovertibly. So,
yes.
I'm good with that.
Right, casting out demons. We'll try and do something with that. Sinner, any
Yes,
stars, any wishes? Oh,
one other wish would be to have a little discussion about theology with Sal and Quellen, because it is the thread that unites us all in a way.
theology. Fair enough. I've
Though
written
it
that
is
in.
strangely combative in a way.
Yes, I'm sure we could have a spirited discussion about uh,
I like that.
heaven and heresy, old gods versus new, etc.
Sinner, any stars, any wishes?
I'd like to second the praise for the group dynamic in the very strange trio we have. Uh,
It's delightful, isn't it?
yeah, there's always a second thing that I never remember what it is, even though I've been
Don't worry,
sitting and
don't
thinking.
worry, don't worry. Any wishes for next time, or would have been better ifs?
I want to see a king, or some emissary of a king. I want to deal with some royalty,
Oh,
or their court, I would settle for a knight.
okay. Faction emissary. See what I can do about that. Um, what I would suggest in terms of favor, Brandon, is that there's a tab marked favor, and what it does is to just lay out uh, the three sessional options and the one per settlement option. And I'll tie that, Sinner, to your request for some factional emissary, maybe, because there is the entanglements include the wider world. A faction moves against you, a faction moves against the locals, a faction becomes involved in the session. Not in a kind of heavy-handed way, but as a complication to your core mission. So there may be a way to bind those together. I don't know. But that's great. My stars to all three of you for throwing yourself into that, particularly those of you unfamiliar with the rules, and the one of you who is very familiar with the rules but unfamiliar with this version of the rules. Thanks for your patience. And yeah, wishes. I just want to see these characters interact some more, and I'm so curious to see which playbook Will is going to select, and how this stranger is going to fit in to this already quite tightly knit group. So with that, I will say, oh, no, I just need to check. Is it okay if I bung this up on YouTube? Thank you very much. Then I will pause the recording.